We are live. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. What's going on, Miguel?
What's up, Adam? How you guys doing?
I hope everybody's doing well. It is hot here in SoCal.
I can just imagine you with the studio lights in studio right now. I'm dying. I'm dying myself, but
ready to buy an AC. But welcome back to the podcast, guys. It is episode 128, I believe. Or 127.
It's 128. Last week was 127.
Okay, so it's episode 128.
Yeah.
There's one topic outside of the box office today, and it's really just addressing the elephant in the room, and it's the SAG-AFTRA, the SAG-AFTRA strike. Obviously we got thoughts on it and kind of where everything kind of lies moving forward with just the way studios are going to handle it and essentially what actors are. The Actors Association is fighting for, really. But before we get into that, obviously, thank you for either listening or watching. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the bell notification. Share this episode with one person. Just share it with one person. We'd appreciate that. And give us a like, comment, and obviously subscribe. If you're listening on audio, I'd check it out here because we do have visuals throughout the podcast episode, that go into more depth of what we're talking about. Also, too, it is apologize for no movie news Monday. There's a reason why I didn't put it up. It's because we do have a 3-episode week this week with obviously this episode that you are either watching or listening. We have an episode on Friday coming out where we're reviewing Barbie, and then an episode on Saturday coming out where we're reviewing Oppenheimer. So there's this jam-packed stuff. So I decided to push back Movie News Monday for an extra week just so that we can, just because I don't want to oversaturate things here. So pushing it back a week so that you guys can have 2 movie reviews on top of this podcast, our weekly podcast. But yeah.
And if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, please do, because apart from Movie News Monday, we do have TV Inquiry releasing every Thursday. We dropped it every other Thursday, dropped it last week, talking about Doctor Who and Shrinking. So please check it out if you haven't. Give it some love, share, and subscribe as well. But yeah, we have a really good episode for you today. Mostly thoughts and questions and things answered about everything going on for people who don't know, who maybe just need to get it simplified a little bit better, and how it affects everybody else. Even people that are not part of the SAG-AFTRA, strike or within the community of that in itself. But because I guess we're all really more of a community based here, it doesn't kind of domino into everything else. So we'll bring it down for you guys, and we'll give you some more information.
Yeah, definitely. Believe it or not, it is at some point going to affect us and obviously all other creators if they do not reach a deal. And we can we'll go, and I'll go into that essentially on like how actors can continue to still find work. But we're going to immediately jump into the box office because we had a new film come out over the past weekend, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And we'll get into where it lies. So, coming in at number 5 for the box office of July 14th through the 16th is Elemental at $9.1 million, bringing the grand total up to $313 million, 125 of that being domestic and 187 of that being international. Coming in at number 4 is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, making $12.3 million, bringing the grand total up to $303 million, 445 of that being domestic and 457 of that being international. Coming in at number 3 is Insidious the Red Door, making $13 million even, bringing the grand total up to $122 million, 58 of that being domestic and 64 of that being international. Coming in at number 2 is The Sound of Freedom, making $27.3 million. It's bringing the grand total up to $85 million worldwide. all of that being domestic as it still hasn't released overseas. And coming in at number 1 with no surprise is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, making $54.7 million. It's currently sitting at $234 million worldwide, 78 of that being domestic and 155 of that being international. Any thoughts on the box office, Miguel?
Very well done, Mission Impossible. Hell yeah. Good for you. Kudos to you, man, because you are doing fantastic work out there. The second film I do want to talk about, though, that would be The Sound of Freedom. Mm-hmm. I actually had a mini review spoiler from a friend of mine who did go see it, and she actually really loved it. Apparently, there's some controversy behind the movie. Not too entirely sure what about, but definitely worth checking out because I was recommended by a good friend of mine, and she usually is kind of a hard hitter when it comes to movies, and she said that it was definitely worth checking out. Apart from Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, and then kudos to Pixar for still making it within the top 5 with Elemental. Yeah, $313 million. I feel like it's a pretty good way for a movie, especially animation. At least from them. Yeah, which is great. I think so. Yeah, other than that, Insidious: The Red Door, man, disappointed me.
Yeah, it was at number 1 and dropped to 3 this week. Then The Sound of Freedom moved up.
Indiana Jones: Dial of Destiny. That's another one that. Well, wait until streaming. I want to say I would probably just say
won't be long.
Yeah, that's why it's just gonna be direct. Like it's gonna be just handed over to Disney Plus any moment. So
yeah.
Which talking about streaming, it is supposed to be announced soon, or at least I don't know. I think it already has been announced. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is supposed to be on streaming by August 2nd.
Yeah, it's confirmed from Prime Video at that point.
Yeah, so very, very happy news there.
Yeah, definitely. You talk about The Sound of Freedom. So the controversy on The Sound of Freedom is that apparently Disney did not want this film getting out, and then a smaller studio bought that film, and there has been, in quotations, issues every time this video plays. So there's a bunch of viral videos on TikTok, all over social media as well, where this film is not being played, or there's many issues throughout the film where theaters are constantly offering refunds for this and trying to get people out of the theater. It has to do. So the film has to do with child trafficking, and sex trafficking specifically, obviously, but. Yeah, no, I have yet to see it. My mom saw it; she really, really enjoyed it. I know it's a heavier tone film, and it's with the guy from The Chosen. I forget his name, but yeah, I mean, those who've seen it are enjoying the film. Obviously, you said your friend went to it. She's not really big on movies, and she really, really enjoyed it. But yeah, no, I've yet to see it. I do want to get out to see it, but I've been catching up on other stuff. Actually, just saw Past Lives and Asteroid City.
You did mention I just saw Asteroid City myself, actually, today. Okay. God, I really enjoyed it.
It wasn't bad. I overall enjoyed the film. I
was lost with the same character with the main guy.
Jason Schwartzman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who plays Augie Steinbeck, I believe, Steinbeck, and he, towards the third act, he goes, "I still don't understand what's going on."
Yeah.
And the entire time, I'm like, "Me too, buddy. Me too." We're on the same.
A little bit of meta in that point. Which was nice.
The best way I could think about it is kind of just like. It had, for me, I think I could compare it to Birdman,
mm-hmm.
where it's a play, but it's also a movie.
Yeah.
And, I think Asteroid City, it's very enjoyable still. Very, very visually pleasing. A lot of pastel colors in there.
Yeah.
And then I also did see the blackening. That was hilarious.
I really want to see that.
Oh man, that's hilarious. That's a funny movie. Plays all the tropes that I love about horror movies, but also just kind of amplifies them a little more. I hope I'm saying that right. Amplifies, whatever. And then, but I do want to see the movie that you saw. I fear I will probably get as involved as you have been, and I think I'm gonna probably text my ex. I'm just kidding.
Oh, all right. I didn't get there. But okay. In all honesty, after seeing this film, the way I thought of it, it was after I saw Past Lives was if this was me 5 years ago, I would have been like depressed over this film for probably like a week.
Yeah.
After walking out of it, I was just like, that's life. Like that's just life. You know, like it's just the story it tells is obviously a love story, but it tells the love story in such a I feel like such a real way. That's the only way to really put it. Is that the story is just so real on how every single character is handled, and there's no simple right or wrong in this film, because of just how well the stories are written for each individual character. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean personally, I enjoyed it.
I feel like it's is it like La La Land?
No.
Is it gonna be worse than that, or like?
So,
Because that's a movie that I saw, and I was thinking, even though it was imaginative, and obviously you have an actress who wants fame, and then you have someone else who wants the ideal way of fame, but also too by owning an establishment, and they have to give up each other to succeed in their own dreams, right? And then they obviously 4 or 5 years go by, and life continues, and then they kind of meet up again, kind of like at Destiny's Point, just to kind of be like, hey, it's great seeing you, but it's life. It is what it is, and we have to continue on and go. But is it as heartbreaking as La La Land? Because La La Land floored me when that happened.
No. So the thing, this is because I had somebody tell me that it was La La Land. It was 2023's La La Land. I didn't agree with that after seeing it. It is. I'm gonna say it's essentially this year's 500 Days of Summer, but there's less of like a definitive who's right and wrong in 500 Days of Summer.
Okay, yeah, because that's a very good point, because almost everybody points to Zooey Deschanel's character to be like,
yeah, but if you go revisit it, if you revisit 500 Days of Summer, you can see how much Tom was an issue as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
yeah.
But this is a blend of where like there's literally no right or wrong. You find yourself essentially rooting for both of these characters, but yet you kind of know the outcome of what it is. You kind of know what is going to happen, whereas La La Land kind of just punched you in the face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with that sequence with epilogue.
Yeah, with a 5-year gap, and they're not together. So.
Okay. All right.
It doesn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to see it. Okay, I might see it tonight. But thank you for that. No spoilers. Yeah. But in a sense,
did my best.
Too, I tried. In a sense, I can't wait to see it. I'm really glad and happy for the success of this film so far. But yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we're gonna get right into it. Essentially, SAG-AFTRA has officially joined the Writers Guild of America on the picket line. As they went on strike, we heard the news. It was already like
it was in the works. Before. It was rumored before it was confirmed, and it happened during the Oppenheimer UK release tour, right?
Yeah, like 10 a.m. we knew they were kind of it was kind of getting ready for it, and it by noon it was confirmed that they were deciding they're just going to go to strike. and a lot's happened. A lot of films and TV shows have really halted.
Yeah, everything that's in production right now or was undergoing some filming has been halted completely in solidarity with the actors as well as the Writers Guild.
Well, they have to stop. It's not
And
necessarily
yeah,
in solidarity. It's they're not allowed to work. There has been a few exceptions. I know the Chosen TV show has been granted immunity from the writer's strike, and there are also a couple other shows that have also been granted immunity from that. But the Chosen is the only one that is in a quote unquote that had to stop, that has been granted immunity. The other shows have all been a part of a union that has allowed them to keep working under obviously some conditions. But as of right now, we know Deadpool 3 has stopped filming, and there are a bunch of other films that has been stopped filming. So I'm going to be reading this off of the Washington Post. I do have also another article from Variety, but a historical double strike has effectively shut down U.S. television and film industries after the leaders of the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Arts, SAG-AFTRA, voted Thursday to join the Writers Guild's month-long strike against the major studios. The Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television, AMPTP, responded in its own statement saying it's deeply disappointed that the union decided to walk away from negotiations. There is kind of, I feel like, something to mention because the producers had been were rumored to be miles away from what SAG-AFTRA was asking. So it kind of makes sense. I feel like they obviously, it's easy to say they're deeply disappointed, but there are rumors that they were on complete opposite ends of what they're asking. But the dispute between SAG-AFTRA and AMPTP centers on fears that artificial intelligence technology will be used to appropriate actors' likeness, as well as on demand for better pay and employment protections in the era of streaming. Yeah.
I think they're calling it the streaming consequence, right? Or the streaming effect.
Yeah.
I believe. For those who are confused about what exactly that all means, in simpler terms, basically, if you're a background actor, right? If you're a background actor and you decide to go to a studio, well, they either pay you $300 for the day, hypothetically, right? They will then ask you to sign your right of likeness to that studio, meaning that you will show up on set for a day, get paid worth $300, but your likeness is now studio property. If you wanted more work as an actor behind the scenes, as whatever, I mean, mostly as like background characters, for example, if you were to go to a different studio, the studio can deny you any type of work because you say, for example, Universal or Warner Brothers or Marvel Studios has your likeness already within their right, meaning they can't work with you anymore, meaning your career doesn't go anywhere after that, and your likeness is now studio property. They can generate AI based on the profile that they've done from you, and use that AI in any other future films. How this really affects everybody, not only just from that standpoint of view, is that now you become an artificial archive within these studios, and you're not getting any money. They can use you anytime for scenes that are either for like crowds or like say at a football, basketball game, whatever type of thing, where something big happens within a key plot point of a movie. That's insane for them to even consider doing that, because it immediately halts everybody's position of work. I will quote Chris Stuckman because he put it in simpler terms for me. One of my favorite film critics, as now in post-production for his new movie Shelby Oaks. Shout out to him. Really happy for him. He stated that actors who are more commonly known getting their footwork into, becoming more of like the day and age actors that we know now, start off with like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, who were both behind the scene extras in The Field, a movie that released during the 90s, through the 80s, I believe. And then they went on to do more work. Had the technology that is being used now been available then, we wouldn't have their performances or their movies. We wouldn't even have like Good Will Hunting, things like that. And that really puts things in perspective. Had Robert Downey Jr. done some behind the scene work when he was trying to restart his career, and they signed his rights, his likeness rights to a studio, we wouldn't be having Iron Man or the 10 years of him now. What puts more common, well-known actors now is that at risk too, because say, for example, Marvel could probably do it. I'm pretty sure. I don't know exactly how they will go, but you never know. With if they want to have the return of Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr., they would offer this to these actors, so that way they can be in any movie moving forward, just so their likeness of AI, but they're not getting any money from that. The studio, again, will benefit from all that as opposed to the actor or, any other type of background work actor that wants to get ahead in their career in Hollywood. That's terrifying to even consider, and is why they're protesting and why they joined the picketing lines. So we have two foundations now where one is completely viable, like really like good for them for fighting that, and then we're also have another side of this picketing line where people just want viable pay compensation for the amount of things. People have gone to TikTok to post their residuals of how much they've gained for shows that are so commonly known, for example, like Orange is the New Black, and they've only gotten $23.47 off credits and credits of episodes released on streaming. So we are understanding that now, and it's causing a big ripple. And at this point, it's really up to the studios to get some common sense in them and agree to these terms, because it's only going to hurt them in the long run too.
Yeah, definitely. I like to touch on the AI. I think that can be frustrating because, like you say, it is frustrating because, like you say, you're getting paid for 1 day of work, and then you go out and you have this career in Hollywood that has nothing to do with any of the work you've done. Essentially, what these big studio companies are trying to eliminate is the actors. They're essentially trying to eliminate SAG-AFTRA. That is what they're doing. And for someone like Bob Iger, who has been so well respected, to come out and say what they're asking is completely unrealistic, I find that hard to believe, considering he only, quote unquote, he only makes $1 million a year at Disney, but has incentives up to close to 25 millions worth of how much he can make. Sure, that does include insurances and other milestones or achievements that he may hit with, such as films or park attendance and stuff like that. I think that is such a classist thing to say, considering you run the biggest film company, not just a film company, but also an entertainment company, the Walt Disney Studios. You're running that, and you're here saying it's unrealistic, but yet you have the possibility to go out and have a $25 million worth every single year. That's completely unfair, especially for somebody who just received an extension of 3 years. It's just like, I think it's just kind of, it's dumb. It's just like, in what world do you need $25 million worth of incentives or overall worth to say, hey, what SAG-AFTRA is asking is unrealistic? Same thing with the Writers Guild. It's completely insensitive to these hard people who, if they weren't writing these films and these TV shows, we wouldn't have these things. We wouldn't have our favorite shows. We wouldn't have our favorite movies. But in all honesty, I'm glad it's happening. I get it. It is gonna delay everything, but it is what it is. I'd much rather have, because like for example, the way I look at it is like people like us who are essentially trying to get into these associations who want to be paid for the hard work that we put in. It's just like this is very concerning because it's just like we're going to be going into these same conditions
Right.
of being underpaid, being underappreciated for the hard work that we're putting in and day out, and even year in and year out. When it gets to that, and it's just like, and that can be very concerning. Is that like it gets to the point where it's just like it makes us like, at some point you probably like we might have to take a step back and be like, hey, like.
It sucks because it just goes back to, like, if you think about it, a struggling artist, right? That conception of a struggling artist. You're not an artist unless you're struggling, and it's like, no, I totally understand that. And most of that, sometimes it is with your own work. You are probably never proud or feel complete or feel like it's good enough to compete within the big leagues, right? But working conditions don't have to be struggling. We don't have to be struggling with that as well. It should be more of a created output as opposed to more of an input from the workforce. I'm glad that these unions exist. It obviously strikes to happen, and to even get a general consensus and even get these rights in the first place have been completed and accomplished because of previous strikes that have happened before, since the 1960s, right? It has, where the SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild have joined forces together. Since then, it's been what, about 60 years now?
Since they've done it together, yeah.
Yeah, 60 years now and counting.
The last writer's
since
strike
these joint forces. So who knows in another 60 years what might conditions be? But I think as long as these stores open, they can benefit almost everybody within this industry. I feel like. Of course, I feel like they're going to reach an agreement. I don't see why not. I really don't.
They're gonna have to. That's the thing.
They're gonna have to, but they have to reach an agreement where there's no loopholes either, where it doesn't repeat and doesn't like, okay, well, how we guys agreed to this. Well, there's gonna be another thing down the line. Like, let's settle things once and for all in that best way. But also, too, things are constantly changing. We don't know exactly how streaming is going to be in the future. And then especially with this whole AI thing going on, that is such a scary possibility to even consider the fact that you may sign your rights and now you're probably part of, big money productions in the future, and you're not seeing a single worth of that. And yet you're probably everywhere. They can even use it for a commercial. That would be insane if you like show up for a commercial and it's like something kind of embarrassing, like, I don't know, like hemorrhoid queen, and you have no say in that, but they have your likeness, so you literally signed your right, and there you are. And now, where are you? Where does that struggling artist end up at? Back at square one.
Yeah. There are a couple ways around this for actors. They can still continue to get work. So there are some things there are still some projects that they can still take on. And I'm taking this off of the a Variety article. They can still do work on reality shows, game shows, commercials. They can do video games and talk shows. I don't see a lot of them doing talk shows just because obviously everything is kind of fresh right now. But I was having this conversation at work where it was just like, if this thing carries on a lot, I can see actors starting to move their way into the video game industry, where we're starting to see video games have a lot more familiar faces. We've already had a full-on cast that is essentially movie stars, and it was, I think it was 2014 when they released Until Dawn, where it essentially had a film stacked cast in this video game. You had Rami Malek, you had Hayden Panettiere, and a number of actors who had been in other projects.
They did a recent, I think The Quarry was their recent one, same production that did Until Dawn. Mm-hmm. Another survival horror game, but they're using their likeness. I mean, I think it's a great way of also getting work, and especially now with video games becoming more cinematic in that sense. there's gonna be a turnout more in that light, which is the pro, but is obviously a con because now we're transcribing into more of like that fourth dimensional break where now it's like you're part of that movie or cinematic experience, but as a video game character, which seems very along the lines of Ready Player One. There a little bit, going into that future that was written and
Yeah, no,
directed by.
definitely. Well, I think like because like Call of Duty is notorious for having cameo actors in all of their projects. There was a Call of Duty Zombies map that had the director George Romero, Danny Trejo, Sarah Michelle Gellar. I can't remember the other two.
Daphne was in Call
Yeah,
of Duty.
yeah, she was in 2010.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
but David Tennant
Miss
has also
Buffy?
showed up in Call of Duty.
Oh, love that guy.
Yeah, and it's just like there have been numerous of actors who have had their faces, even like Norman Reedus, who was the face of Death Stranding, and it's just like I can see if this strike takes on any more longer, we can see them start appearing there, especially for those who are gonna need work. Hear me out though. Also, too, we could see a revival in YouTube homemade films where people are releasing their films for free on YouTube and getting paid for that. And it's just like kind of going back
actors
into,
going YouTubers.
yeah, well, kind of going back into the whole a truly independent filmmaker where you are writing, directing, editing, and all that yourself. I can see that happening. Obviously, it's just like there have been people who have kind of done that, where YouTube has kind of somewhat tapped and kind of dribbled into that section of like filmmaking, but hasn't fully been able to do that. I can see YouTube, becoming a marketplace where it's just like you're independent, you're an independent, you're a freelancer at that point, and if you aren't, there are possibilities out there.
Damn.
It,
Damn.
I'm just saying, if it takes, that's if it takes long. If it takes as long as, I would have to assume it's not going to last until the end of the year. I feel like it's very crucial that they get it done by the end of the year.
Because they've gone on 70 days as of now already.
Yeah, at least for the Writers Guild.
Yeah.
Yeah. For SAG-AFTRA.
How do you potentially see the strikes and the production halt affecting people like us? People that want to get into this field at some point within the near future. So how do you think this is going to affect us in the long run, in the pros and in cons?
I think a pro, obviously, is that at the end of the day, we are not getting paid for this. So it's not like we can't talk about films. It's not like we can't talk about up-and-coming films. Or, it's a little different if, like, we had ever been invited to an event. Then that's where it's just like, I feel like, that's a discussion we would have to have, whether, is it, behind closed doors on how to approach it in terms of, whether we should go or not. Anything that led to us potentially getting paid for any of this would obviously have to be discussion, especially while the strike is going on. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to be adding to the issues of people that we've worked with, such as, obviously like Isabel and Magali, and anybody else we're going to work with in the future. It's just like, we don't want to create any issues or be on the opposite side of them who have taken the time to come on to talk to us about these things, about what it is to be in the business of Hollywood. So it's just like, and also too, I think like, if we ever run out of new films and new TV shows to talk about, there are always hundreds of years worth of motion picture that we can still talk about. So I don't think there will ever be a shortage of content for us to create. Obviously,
some networks have been releasing their online exclusives on regular television now because of the lack of production.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know Yellowstone is hitting NBC at some point. Um, and
Even
that's usually a stream. That was a streaming service. That's AMC Plus, I believe. No, is it Peacock?
I think it's HBO or Showtime.
Showtime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe it's Showtime. But also, even The Mandalorian showed up on ABC. So it's just like to get it out to the general audience who isn't subscribing to Disney Plus. I think also too. Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought here.
We're talking about streaming, and
yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, obviously, like we're gonna obviously continue to make film or make content on this. It's just like, again, this isn't necessarily about like us not being able to make content or anything like that, because there's a distinctive right and wrong here. It's just like, however, at the end of the day, we have no contract with anybody. This is all for fun. So do not come at us. We're just simply, we still love film. The thing is, at the end of the day, we still love film, whether or not there's a strike going on or not. I think another thing too, people don't understand that what's really going to start happening is at some point studios are going to run out of material. And they're going to space out all of their material a lot longer. So that's one thing. Shows aren't going to be, they're going to be okay for a bit. They do have things that are going to continuously roll out. But at some point, they're going to be, oh crap, we have to stretch this out and release this a little later so that we can make it to this date, we can make it to that date. However, though, this does affect the bigger projects, such as like what Marvel's working on, Secret Wars, Kang Dynasty, Shang-Chi 2, anything that you can think of that is in production. Netflix, Stranger Things 5, that is not coming out anytime soon now. The writers cannot write, they cannot start pre-production, everything's halted. So Stranger Things 5 they were already saying 2025, it's realistically probably 2027 now.
Yeah, Last of Us Season 2.
That's another thing
being held back.
Yeah.
Euphoria Season 3, another thing held back for... Honestly, though, Euphoria, we could probably do without. I'm sorry.
It's in production hell.
It's in production hell at this point, but I'm glad I just hope it just gets canceled.
That...
I'm not going to lie. Sorry, Zendaya. You can find better work, babe.
The rise and fall of Euphoria is insane. How quickly...
The first season was great. The second season was just disastrous, but yeah. I mean...
But no, yeah.
Anyway,
there's a lot going to be affected. However, there's still a lot coming out. Anything that is coming out within probably this year that has already been editing is probably going to be done. If anything is in post production, reshoots can't happen, rewrites can't happen. They're kind of in a gray area where they're gonna probably have to work with what they have. If you look back at the last strike that we had in 2008, you can tell there was a writer's strike going on. You can tell.
There was a lot of things that happened there that we're pissed off about.
And I think we did mention it last week or a couple of weeks ago, where the biggest testament I always think of is like Breaking Bad. The first season's only like 8 episodes, and then it abruptly just ends. And it's not the best season, but it's not like that bad. But towards the end, it does really kind of get a little bit messy because there's a writer's strike going on. This is where things, if it continues up, we're going to see like stuff like this happen a lot.
And for me, I think it was like Lost, the biggest one.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that.
Lost was like great to like season 3, and then after season 3, it like 4, 5, and 6 were like. They had no idea what they were doing with that at that point, and then everyone ended up dead. That was annoying. Grey's Anatomy has a little bit of that, even though the first couple 4 seasons were probably their best too. Mm-hmm. Other shows as well, but the thing is, they're going to be in production, either delayed or in development hell, or worse.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting how Hollywood begins to unravel at this point moving forward.
We're going to keep you guys covered for sure, because it's going to either through Movie News Monday or through another episode like this, because it's going to progressively get worse. I feel like it is.
Yeah, but anybody who is a journalist, an entertainment journalist, anything a part of SAG-AFTRA or an influencer that has some sort of contract with somebody that is in any of these guilds, it is going to be interested for them. We don't fall into any of that, so again, that's where we're able to continue making content about the films coming out. But it's just like it's going to be interesting because before you know it, sure, they're striking against the guild or against the people they're opposing. But before you know it, they are going to start striking and boycotting the big studio names, such as Netflix, Disney, Warner Brothers. All of them are going to, if this continues on, they're going to start striking there. So it's going to be interesting. I'm very interested to see how this unravels because
call me radical, but I love this.
Yeah, I think it's
I love that they're doing this.
Me too. And this is what it's about because there was also another quote that came out where a producer came out or a studio head came out and said the goal of this against the Writers Guild is to make them start losing their apartments and their houses. And that's our goal.
I saw the same quote. That was pretty messed up completely.
Yeah. And then Ron Perlman fired back saying he knew who it was and there's more than one way to lose a house. And he goes and basically threatens this studio head. So things are already getting radical on both sides.
Yeah. They're like, hey, yeah, by the way, remember when you did so-and-so with a very someone so-and-so that committed suicide so-and-so? Yeah. Let's start digging that up, babe. Let's start breaking the NDAs type of thing. I feel like that's what's going on with Hollywood, too. People are pointing out their guns, and they're ready to fire back.
It is going to...
A metaphorical gun.
Yeah, it's things are unraveling. They're going to unravel quickly, as they have. But for Ron Perlman to come out and... say that, I think that says a lot. For him to come back and clap back so quickly, I think says a lot just because he is... I wouldn't want to fight Hellboy or be opposed on the opposite side of Hellboy. But hey, studio heads know what they're doing, clearly. They clearly know what they're doing, and they're going to continue to do what they know how to do, and that is be selfish. And... take home $25 million a year. So it's all...
this is a crazy boat to be on, man.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I have nothing else to say. I don't even know how to continue.
Yeah, same here. But all we can do is just continue to obviously try do our best to do our part, and
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's gonna do it though.
Sign us off, Adam.
Yeah. Really quickly though, before we sign everything off, be excited because Miguel will be in studio for the next 2 episodes. So yeah, because we got the Barbenheimer premiere, we are doing the back-to-back featurette. So.
Oh God, yeah. I'm gonna have so much caffeine that day.
6 hours in the movie. Let's go. Oh my gosh, 3.5 hours in an Oppenheimer theater. Whew. Okay, but yeah, we're
if you're curious, we're doing Oppenheimer first. No, wait, we're doing Barbie first.
Yeah, we're doing Barbie first.
And then we're doing Oppenheimer.
It made more sense to do Barbie first. Oppenheimer wasn't starting till 5.
Like time constriction.
Yeah, because if we had done. There was no Oppenheimer at 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would have been getting out. We'd be getting out an hour earlier than what if we did Oppenheimer back to back Barbie.
We're gonna get out of the movie theater by like 10 p.m.
Probably about 9:30, 10. Yeah. But hey, that's what we love to do. So. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We hope that we brought some light onto how both the SAG-AFTRA strike and the Writers Guild strike works, as we continue to have Hollywood affected by these. Again, there's a clear right and wrong. We need better paying conditions for our talented actors, our talented writers. It's plain and simple as that. They deserve a lot more credit than what they get. So I think that's going to do it for episode 128. Again, if you already haven't, subscribe to all the socials or follow us on all the socials. Links are in the description below. That's going to do it. As always, I'm Adam.
Man, Miguel.
And this is episode 128.
128
of our real addiction. Sic Parvis Magna.
Sic Parvis Magna, everybody.